What is your understanding of the concept of humility? If you're like most people, you probably haven't given it as much thought as some of the other more familiar Christian attributes, like love or mercy. But 19th century writer and pastor Andrew Murray highlights its significance. Humility is not so much a grace or virtue along with others, it is the root of all, because it alone takes the right attitude before God and allows Him as God to do all. So, how do we begin to understand this foundational quality that holds such important significance in the life of believers in Jesus? Well, grasping complex biblical ideas can begin with uncovering word origins. But in the case of the word humble or lowly, as it's often translated in the King James Version, a word study isn't immediately enlightening. In ancient Greek culture, the word tapeinos almost always carried negative connotations. The primary definition meant not rising far from the ground. In its earliest usage, it was a geographical term referring to low-lying areas prone to gather water, like a bog or marsh. But as words often do, tapeinos eventually took on an additional meaning describing lowly people. In Greek culture, it became a characterization of those who were powerless or weak. However, with the coming of Christ and eventual distribution of the gospel letters, the meaning of humility was drastically altered. In almost all occurrences of the word in the New Testament, tapeinos is elevated and cast in a positive light by its association with the attitude and character of Jesus Christ. The Apostle Paul cemented this alteration as he instructed the new believers at Philippi to mimic the Lord, specifically regarding his humble attitude. Have this mind in yourselves, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a bondservant, and being made in the likeness of men. Being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. The ultimate act of humility for Jesus was death on the cross, but before his supreme sacrifice, he demonstrated humility by interacting with tax collectors, prostitutes, lepers, and other people in the margins of first-century society. And as if to put a punctuation mark on this humble attitude, in his last hours of life, Jesus voluntarily took the lowliest position of a servant and knelt to wash his disciples' feet. Since that's how Christ showed us how to live a life of humility, it's our responsibility to do the same. Dr. Stanley reminds us how to focus our attitude.
I'm going to serve out of a spirit of humility. Now, I'm not talking about some piosity. I'm talking about a spirit of humility which says, I am willing to get down and do whatever is necessary to do whatever the Lord has called me to do. Not self-seeking, not vainglory, not looking for something for myself, not asking the question, what am I going to get out of this? The issue is, if I have a spirit of humility, the issue is, what can I do to serve the Lord? Father, whatever you want me to do, it doesn't make a difference what it is. I'm not too big or too small to do whatever you call me to do.